Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
So I want you to imagine going in for a medical procedure.
Okay.
You're at the hospital, and an AI system makes a recommendation for your treatment. The doctor follows it, but then, well, something goes terribly wrong.
Which is pretty much everyone's worst nightmare, right?
Exactly. It's terrifying. And right now, according to our sources today, the legal and medical worlds are completely scrambling to figure out whose fault that actually is.
Yeah, the blame game here is intense.
It really is. So our mission for this deep dive is to untangle this really messy web of liability. We're looking into the doctors, the massive tech companies, and the hospital administrators.
Because when these algorithms get it wrong, things get very complicated very fast.
Right. And to understand why this is such a legal nightmare for you, the patient, we kind of have to understand how responsibility used to work.
Yeah, we have to look at the specific technological wall we basically just crashed into.
So how did it used to work? Like before AI?
Well, traditionally, the chain of responsibility was crystal clear. I mean, it was always a very linear path.
Like A to B to C.
Exactly. If a mistake happened, it was either the doctor's bad decision, right? Or maybe a nurse's incorrect application of a medication.
Or I guess just a piece of equipment failing.
Yeah, a mechanical failure. The gear literally broke. But AI just blows this entire chain up.
Because of what the sources call the black box problem, right?
Yes. The black box problem is huge. You see, an AI processes billions of parameters to reach a medical decision.
Billions.
Billions. But the catch is, it cannot always explain its logical roadmap. It gives an answer, but it can't show its work.
Wait, hold on. If a human doctor makes, a bizarre decision and they can't explain their reasoning...
They're in major trouble.
Right, they lose their license. So why do we accept a black box from a machine when someone's life is literally on the line?
That is the exact question the legal system is struggling with. And because the AI can't explain itself...
And you can't exactly put a computer program in jail?
Right, you can't cross-examine code. So this lack of transparency fractures the liability into three distinct stakeholder groups.
Okay, so who are the groups?
Well, since the AI isn't a legal person, the legal system currently just defaults to pointing the finger at the human in the room.
Which would be the doctor.
Exactly. The doctor is stakeholder number one, sitting right there in the hot seat.
Wow. So the doctor just takes all the blame.
Pretty much. Under current law, AI is not considered a doctor at all. It's classified merely as a decision support tool.
Cool. Like a stethoscope or an X-ray machine?
Exactly like that, legally speaking. So the doctor acts as the final approval authority.
Meaning the buck stops with them.
Yes. It's called medical judgment liability. If the AI suggests a clearly wrong treatment, it is the doctor's absolute duty to filter that through their own medical knowledge.
And if they don't?
If they blindly follow it, the liability falls squarely on their shoulders, period.
You know, it sounds like following a GPS app. Like, if the GPS tells you to turn right into a literal lake and you do it, you can't blame the app for your sunken car.
That's a great way to put it.
Because, you're still the one holding the steering wheel.
Right, you have eyes, you should see the lake. But here's where it gets wild. Doctors are actually already preparing a really fascinating legal defense against this.
Oh, really? What are they arguing?
Well, because AI processes vast amounts of data, way more data than any human ever could read in a lifetime.
Right. Millions of case studies and scans.
Exactly. Doctors will soon argue in court, hey, the AI sees more data than me. Wouldn't it be professional negligence for me not to trust its decision?
Oh, wow. So they're saying it would be arrogant to ignore the computer.
Yes. They're saying the standard of care should be trusting the statistically superior machine.
That's a brilliant defense, honestly. But blaming the doctor completely assumes the tool was, perfectly neutral to begin with.
Which it often isn't.
Right. Because what if the GPS, in our analogy, wasn't just wrong, but fundamentally broken from the factory?
And that brings us to the second stakeholder, the software and tech companies.
The people actually building the AI.
Exactly. Because if a mistake stems from a software bug, and this is much more common bias training data rather than just a doctor's carelessness.
Then not malpractice anymore.
Right, it becomes a product liability issue.
Like selling a defective car brake.
Yes. And the sources detail exactly how this bias manifests in the real world.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because this affects you, the listener, directly.
It really does. For example, If an AI is not trained on data from a specific ethnic group or a certain genetic profile,
Because the developers just used whatever data was easiest to get.
right, then it might give patients of that background the wrong diagnosis entirely. It literally cannot see their symptoms correctly because it wasn't trained to.
So the product is fundamentally defective for certain populations.
Exactly. But the tech companies have a really aggressive defense strategy here.
Yeah, I saw this in the sources and I pushed back on it immediately.
It's controversial, for sure.
The sources say tech companies try to dodge liability by claiming AI is a learning system, and therefore its results are unpredictable.
Yep. They argue it evolves.
But how could you sell a medical product, put it in a hospital, and legally say, well, who knows what it'll do?
I agree, it's incredibly frustrating. And the group most frustrated by that excuse is our third stakeholder, hospital management.
Because they're the ones buying this stuff.
Exactly. Hospitals can absolutely be sued for what's called organizational flaws.
Meaning they messed up on an administrative level.
Right. Did they choose a bad AI just to save money? Did their IT department fail to install crucial updates?
Oh, right, like a software patch that would have fixed the bias.
Yes. And did they fail to adequately train the doctors on how to actually use the system and understand its limitations?
So the hospital gets hit from both sides.
They're caught right in the middle.
Okay, so just to recap this mess, doctors are blaming the AI for being too complex to second guess.
Right.
Tech companies are claiming the AI is unpredictable, so they shouldn't be sued.
Yeah.
And hospitals are just caught in the crossfire of this massive finger-pointing exercise. So how do we actually resolve this?
Well, the sources introduce a radical new legal concept to solve this gridlock. It's called giving the AI an electronic personality.
Wait, like personhood
Yeah.
for a computer program.
Yes. Granting AI systems a limited form of electronic personhood.
That sounds like science fiction. How does it even work legally?
It's actually similar to how we treat corporations. A corporation isn't a human, but legally it's a person that can be sued.
Okay, I track that.
So by making the AI a legal entity, you take the pressure off the human doctors and the administrators. And it's all funded by a no-fault compensation fund.
Okay. Let's unpack this fund because this is where it really impacts the listeners.
Yeah.
Essentially a mandatory insurance fund, right?
Exactly. Tech companies would be required to pay a fee into this central fund for every single AI license they sell to a hospital.
So it's like a giant pool of malpractice money just sitting there.
Yes. And the reason this helps you, the patient, is speed.
Because if you or your family member are harmed by an algorithmic error,
Under this no-fault system, you get compensated from the fund immediately.
which is huge.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend 10 years in court figuring out if the doctor, the coder, or the hospital administrator is the guilty party.
Right, you get your medical bills covered right away and let the lawyers fight it out behind closed doors later.
It's a really elegant solution, honestly. And this is big. But while lawyers are sitting around debating insurance funds and electronic personhood,
The tech is already here.
right, it's already creeping into hospitals and actively messing with doctors' heads in real time.
That's the psychological side of this, which is just as dangerous as the legal side.
Yeah, let's get into the ethical nightmares.
Yeah.
Because this AI is changing how medicine is practiced on a human level.
It all comes down to a phenomenon called automation bias.
Automation bias.
Yes. It's where doctors basically start silencing their own clinical instincts.
Because they think the machine is always right.
Exactly. We have this pervasive societal belief that AI doesn't make mistakes. A calculator doesn't get math wrong, right?
Right.
So when a highly complex diagnostic AI says, this patient has a rare disease, a human doctor might look at the patient, see totally different symptoms, but still defer to the machine.
Oh, wow. So they just ignore their own eyes and their own experience?
Yes, because they assume the computer sees something they missed.
Which puts doctors in the ultimate damned if you do, damned if you don't dilemma.
It really does. It's a terrible trap.
Because think about it. If a doctor overrules the AI's recommendation and relies on their gut,
And they turn out to be wrong?
the patient gets hurt.
Yeah.
And that doctor will almost certainly be crucified in court.
The lawyer will just say, you rejected the possibilities offered by modern technology. You thought you were smarter than a supercomputer.
And a jury would totally buy that.
Absolutely.
So what this creates is a really terrifying era of what the sources call defensive medicine.
Right, where doctors are making choices not based on what their medical intuition tells them is best for the patient.
But based on what will hold up in court,
Exactly. They just rubber stamp the AI's decision to protect themselves legally.
even if they secretly disagree with it.
Yes. They just become a liability sponge for the hospital.
That is, I mean, that's just a tragic outcome for patient care.
It erodes the entire human element of medicine.
So as we wrap up this journey today, we've seen how rapidly AI is integrating into your local hospitals. And the line between human intuition and machine calculation is blurring so fast.
It really is leaving this massive legal void in its wake.
Yeah. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final kind of provocative thought, something to just mull over that builds on this idea of AI personhood.
Okay, let's hear it.
If we actually give AI an electronic personality, right, and it gets its own insurance fund to cover malpractice,
Yeah.
what happens when the AI commits too much malpractice?
Ah, that's an interesting point.
Right. Like, could an algorithm eventually be dragged in front of a medical board?
Like a human doctor would be.
Exactly. Could a piece of software have its license officially revoked and be legally banned from practicing medicine forever?
That would mean treating a string of code with the exact same disciplinary framework as a living, breathing surgeon.
It's wild to think about, but it might be where we're heading.
The rules are definitely changing.
They are indeed. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the invisible systems shaping your world, and we'll catch you next time.